Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center, and I'm here to bring to you one more episode of Building the Premier Accounting Firm to help you actually work on your business, offer quality accounting services, and most importantly, get paid what you're worth. It's here each and every week. We bring on the experts, helping us actually identify the things that we need to be working on in our business. And today is going to be a wonderful episode where we're going to discuss things related to marketing and selling and growing the firm. I happen to have on the show a guest, Karen Reyburn, that I've been excited to speak with for some time. Karen is the founder of PF, a creative agency working exclusively with accountants, and the author of The Accountant Marketer. She is a qualified accountant, a CPA, and her team of 20 creatives work remotely serving accountants all over the world. Her second book, Accountants Are Creative Too, is currently in the editing process, and she is now basically guided by her two personal values of freedom and honesty. So Karen, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. First of all, I'd like to start with a little bit of a background, a story as to your experience getting into the accounting profession. What drew you to accounting?
Yeah, it's a great question. I took an accounting class because I had to at university because I was studying business, the broad scope, because I didn't know what I wanted to focus on. And I had a particular accounting professor who was really helpful and helped me, and I believe others, to see how the accounting numbers applied to real life. But I just thought, well, that's fine. That wasn't so bad of an accounting class, I guess. But then after a couple years and you had to decide your major, your area of study, I realized that the accounting classes I had taken were the ones that challenged me the most, and that I was going to be a little disappointed if I didn't have any. So that's actually why I chose to study accounting, even though I didn't intend to become an accountant. I just thought, well, surely having an accounting degree is a really useful thing, regardless of what I do, which is true. It is.
Yep.
And then once I finished and had my degree, I ended up saying, well, I may as well, this is kind of how I do things, may as well become a CPA. So I did that. And I worked as an auditor, which was okay, but it helped me realize I didn't want to be an accountant or an auditor. So that was the kickoff that got me into that journey.
It's funny. I hear so often, sometimes people just kind of get into the profession. It's something that they go to school, don't know what to do. They get into accounting like you described and say, hey, this is working out. And lo and behold, 20 years later, they've got a great career that they've been very happy with. So obviously you got into accounting, did the auditing. What got you to the point where you found that marketing was your niche? Tell us about how you actually were given that assignment and started doing that for the firm.
Yeah, so I ended up coming to Scotland for reasons entirely separate from work. I just came over for a couple months and I wanted to come back. I had a sort of a connection to the country. I believe strongly that you can fall in love with countries as well as you can with people. So in order to stay longer in Scotland, I thought, well, I need a job. So I got a job at an accountancy firm. But this accounting firm was really, this was 20 years ago. And they were really into this business advisory consulting thing, which was all very new. And there was this network they were members of that had CDs, you had whole boxes of these and checklists and binders and everything. And they said, you seem to, be able to chat to people about their businesses and things. Would you be interested in exploring this? I'm like, sure, thinking I didn't really want to do accounting or auditing, but that just gave me a job and allowed me to live here. So I started becoming their business development. I had no idea what that meant. I literally was like, yes, I will take this job. I don't know what it is, but I will figure it out. And I did, I ran seminars. I would like to apologize to the business owners. I ran seminars too. I think they went well and they learned from them. But I look back and go, I didn't have a clue, but I was using the systems and I cared about people. And what I discovered was that I was enjoying the marketing and consulting side of the accounting firm far more than any of the others. So when that firm decided they didn't want to do consulting or advisory anymore, I thought, well, I don't want to go back to doing accounting work. So I got a job with the network serving accountants, and I helped accountants with marketing and consulting. And that was when I realized at that time, it's different now, but at that time, there was nobody who was helping accountants to actually do the marketing work. Everyone was advising them. Everyone was telling them, go and get a website built. Make sure you have a good brand. And they didn't know what to do with that. And they kept repeating themselves to all these different providers. So that's why I set up PF.
I love this story because I can think of a number of people that would have gone through a similar journey, because marketing just doesn't resonate with everybody that's an accountant. It's a foreign thing typically, and it doesn't have to be as difficult as many portray it, but it is something that seems kind of different than what they had originally signed up for, because it does lend itself more to that creative space, and it is something that's a little bit more outgoing. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's define marketing to begin. What is marketing?
Gosh, I have been a guest on many, many podcasts, and I don't think anyone has ever asked me that. To be honest, I don't have a ready definition that I would rattle off. I think because any definition that I have heard sounds like a bunch of fancy words, like what does it even mean? But if I had to simplify it, I would say, like we at PF are in the business of helping accountants to take who they truly are and help people see that and connect with it before they become a client.
I like it. Well, I'm going to add to that, and I'll give you my definition of marketing.
Yeah.
Very, very simple. The distinction that I give between marketing and sales is the following. Marketing is everything that you do to position yourself in front of your potential customers so that they will raise their hands and self-identify and say, I think I could benefit from your services. And in doing so, you capture their contact information and are able to now begin the sales process.
Yeah, I think that we basically said the same thing there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is that this concept of good marketing being something that divides, which means it brings in the people that are your people, and it literally sends away the people who are not. And a lot of accountants have in their mind that marketing needs to be something that puts the firm out there, and then you get lots of leads. And of course, you have to filter them all through, and many of them are no good.
Yeah.
Whereas my perspective is that the best marketing maybe brings you fewer leads, but almost all of them are just spot on. They're the kind of people that you want to work with and who want to work with you, and it's going to go well. And when that doesn't happen, when you're getting the leads that aren't the right fit, or you find out 3 months later this is not a great client, that tells you there's a gap in your marketing.
That's right. Your messaging is either drawing in the wrong individuals or you're not qualifying them well enough. So I usually define it as two things. We're looking at both quantity. You want the volume of leads coming in that actually fill your funnel such that you get the number of engagements you need to grow the firm. But at the same time, you want the quality. And that's where your ideal client being defined is so important. That's where you actually want to maybe look at niching your services and defining what it is you're ultimately wanting as a client. This is getting to the point of what type of client relationship you want to have with the business owners, what types of services you're providing. I mean, there's a lot of clarity that goes into the messaging as to what it is you provide to your clients so that they can self-select and say, that's what I'm looking for myself and I'm willing to pay for it. So as it relates to marketing, clearly you work with accounting firms and you help address this issue for them. What are some of the initial things that you feel they need to address or answer in order to go to market with a clear message?
Great question. I think the number one thing that I would encourage every accountant to consider and begin to embrace is the concept that as a human being who happens to be an accountant, you are a creative person. You have creativity within you. And the reason I start with that, because we can talk about ideal audience and message and values, and we need to, and those are good things. But if you at your core don't believe that you have any creativity in you, or you're not creative, you are going to hit roadblocks because you're going to go, oh, well, I'm not creative. So, and it almost becomes an excuse or a reason not to do the thing or not to try the thing. And to circling back to your point about how marketing often is quite a different thing for accountants, it makes sense. Like accounting has rules. It has black and white. It has debit and credit. I remember studying that at university going, oh my gosh, it actually makes sense. You put this here, and if it doesn't equal that, something's wrong and you got to find it. And when I was an auditor, that was easy for me to do. I'm like, it doesn't balance. There it is. There's the $3 million. Okay, now we know the score. But that's not how marketing works. You put this in and that in, and you do what that other firm did, and it's a disaster. And you go, well, okay, I thought that was the formula. And then you try something else, and it works brilliantly for you. So there's a lot of play that happens with marketing, and that can be hard for accountants. It can be hard to go, I'm just going to have to try stuff. And then if it works, I do more of that. And if it doesn't, I stop and do something else. What? So but when you accept and embrace this concept that as a human person, you have creativity within you, just recognizing that is a good first step to saying, well, if it's there and I believe it's there, or I will believe it's there, then you notice it when it comes up. And you start to go, do you know, I had this idea the other day about our onboarding process. Oh, that actually does relate to my marketing, because when I have an onboarding thing, I can show it to a prospect and say, when you come on as a client, it looks like this.
I'm liking this conversation because in the creative space, as I work with my clients, I find that we have a very similar conversation, and typically two things come up, and I'm curious what you're going to say about this. The first is often you're looking for a recipe, kind of like accounting. You think that there's a process that you're able to duplicate, and in many ways there is. So I don't want to suggest there's not like a rule, but the point is what we first of all have to recognize is that we want you to be uniquely you and be authentic, in the sense that individuals, businesses are going to be drawn to you and not drawn to your competitor. There's something that's going to be accentuated by you that's unique, that they want to do business with you. So we want to find what is it about you that we can accentuate and all of a sudden kind of put out there so that you stand out from all the other accounting and bookkeeping firms. Now, that's the first part of it. The second part of it is in the accentuation of it all. We want to actually highlight what is different and unique about you. And so it's kind of like when you're a teenager, you want to blend in, you don't want the attention, you want to actually not be noticed. But all of a sudden, once you become a young adult, it is, okay, what is that unique thing about you that you want to draw attention to?
Yeah.
What is that thing that you want to accentuate? Because all of a sudden it allows people to see you as a unique individual. Well, that process is that creative space of what you're describing, of how do we find, identify, and now bring that to market. Would you add anything more to that?
Yeah, I would. And I think that's totally fair, because what a lot of accountants do is say, well, I don't know what my USP is, the unique selling point, or I don't know what my niche audience is. Do I have to have one? Does it have to be an industry? Or how do I express what I do different from all these firms? So there is an aspect to which there's a worth and value conversation that needs to happen in the accountant's mind. And a lot of accountants I talk to say, listen, if I can get in the room, the Zoom room, the virtual room, the physical room, I can sell to them and they will become a client 80-90% of the time. But I'm struggling getting them in the room. Mm-hmm. And that's going back to our previous point, that if your marketing is doing its job, it will be getting people in the room and it will be getting the right people. So this is the motivation for me, for accountants, to have great marketing that fully reflects who they truly are. Because if you have to wait until they get in the room, you are missing this massive chunk of people who go to your possibly very tired, templated website that looks like every other accounting website they've ever seen in their lives. And they go, yes, I guess, a list of management accounts, advisory, payroll, whatever. They seem like nice people and I got referred. But if you say, we believe in these things, we do things this way, this is the approach we take. I mean, just tiny side point. If you don't have a how we work page on your website, I put that at the top of the list of some of the things that you need to create, because that's what they want to know. They could care less if you have a list of 47 accounting services. Of course, they presume you do those. You're an accountant. But what they want to know is, but what happens when I send the message? Do we have a meeting? How long is the meeting? What questions do you ask? How much might it cost? What's that based on? And the more you can tell people those things that you repeat in those meetings that you're so good at, the less of those meetings you have to have.
Yeah, what you're describing is the client relationship and setting expectations, and more importantly, managing those expectations. So I'm liking that. So let's talk about now from creativity. I know you have an analogy where you compare whiskey to being like marketing. I'm curious how you're going to tie these two together.
So I'm a big whiskey fan, not only because I happen to live in Scotland, but there's so much about the creation of this product that fascinates me, because whiskey making is a process that wastes nothing. There's not one single thing that is wasted, and it takes a long time. So if you put together, it's only got 3 ingredients: barley, yeast, and water. And otherwise I'm speaking of Scottish whiskey particularly. And you put those ingredients together, you do the things, you put them in the barrel, in the cask, and it has to sit there for 3 years. And if it doesn't sit there for 3 years, it's not whiskey. It's just a alcoholic liquid. But the moment the 3-year point has passed, 3 years and 1 day, it becomes Scottish whiskey. And of course, some whiskeys 5 years, 10 years, 25 years. The investment that these distilleries make in making whiskey, they've got a good 3 years of effort before they can sell their first bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very similar to marketing when you're starting from the point zero, when you don't have a good solid brand. Your website's just a template and it doesn't say much. You don't have blog posts or social presence or videos or onboarding or how we work graphics or cornerstones or any of that. You've probably got a good 2 to 3 years of foundational work to do. Now, I'm not saying you won't get any results for 2 or 3 years, because I guarantee you people listening are like, what? Never mind, forget it. But the thing is, if you're not willing to at least invest 3 years of that work, as well as the other things you do, you're not going to get the big impact from it, the value down the road. And marketing builds on itself. So you do good marketing, and then in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, you're starting to reap the benefits of things, that blog posts that have been sitting there. I've got countless accountants that we work with, and we run their tracking numbers every month, kind of marketing management accounts. And we look at those, and when they have like a top blog, the blog post that is the most popular, once there's a blog that gets to the top, it tends to stay there for like a year, because once it's there, it's building all that. So if you're getting into marketing to be like, Karen, can you give me a quick win that I can do something and get a new client tomorrow? I could probably give you a few suggestions, but it's not going to have the impact and the value and the quality of the kind of stuff where you build good foundations and you let it sit there and simmer and become this amazing thing. And in 3 years' time, you crack open the cask and there you go, you've got this product. So there's loads more I could go into, but that's the short version.
Well, I'm liking the fact that you're illustrating that marketing is a long venture. It is something that is meant to be over time. There's a reputation component to it, and referrals don't just come from a client you got yesterday. You've got to have now clients that you're servicing, and from that, the referrals may come. So it's understanding that what you're doing today will reap rewards, not just in this month, but in maybe 3 years. And I appreciate that perspective, because for a lot of the accounting professionals I work with, they're looking too short-sighted, and this is addressing at least that there's this 3-year plan. So I appreciate that. So when it comes to accountants and this marketing discussion, this idea of creativity, you're trying to get them to understand what the components of a good marketing plan are. I'm curious, what do you wish that accountants knew and understood about marketing?
Good question. I would say the first thing I would want accountants to understand about anything you do in marketing is that you have to start with audience first. So if you're going to write a LinkedIn post, if you're going to record a video, run an online masterclass, deliver an in-person event, go to a networking event, whatever thing you're thinking of doing, if you have not stopped and said, who is this for? Besides being for you to get some new business. But for the marketing side, marketing is all about what's in it for them. So why are you writing this LinkedIn post for them? What's in it for them? Who are these people that you're talking to? And even better, if you can get one person in mind, and I'll raise my hand on this, that sometimes I fail to do this and I have to, give myself my own advice, which is, if I have a client in mind and I think of this one person who I really like, who has a creative mindset, and they know they do, and they have ideas, and they're open, and they ask good questions, and they love their clients, and I think of writing a post that they will like and appreciate. That is going to be more human, more personable, more relatable to people like them, people who are like them. So then you're writing something not in general to say, hi, did you know we have bookkeeping services, which is like writing everything to everybody, so it applies to nobody. But you're saying, I was talking to somebody the other day about this. One of our clients, if we're saying, I talked to Georgie and Georgie said she had this issue, and somebody else goes, oh my gosh, me too. I have Georgie's issue, but I don't have Georgie's results. Georgie's now in this place and I'm not. How can I get there? There's that connection. So I think just circling back, one of the 12 elements of marketing that I talk about in my book, the very first one is audience. And it doesn't matter what we're talking about. If people say, is it a good idea to write a blog? I'm like, who's it for? Is it a good idea to run an event? Who would it be for? And then you move into what is the issue they're facing. So you're not promoting a service, you're solving an issue. But if you start with audience, it solves a lot of marketing issues.
Yeah. So I don't know how this is going to play into it, but failure obviously is something that the accountants experience. We all experience it.
Yes.
How do you tie failure then into the marketing message?
Oh, great question. I almost said I'm a big fan of failure. I'm not. I don't think anyone likes failure. It's not enjoyable. And I don't believe in this like seek failure kind of thing, because we don't want to fail. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't fail, you won't learn. Think of it like learning a language, or, the Olympics are on right now. These people have failed billions of times and then they got up again and kept going. So I think the question with failure is not, will I fail? Of course you'll fail. You'll fail 100%. I can 100% guarantee you that you will fail at something in marketing. Matter of fact, I can pretty much guarantee that in life, in accounting, in, everything. But the question is, what will you do with that failure? Will you beat yourself up and be like, oh no, I must be terrible at this. I must be a horrible marketer. But that's a leap that you're making. We're back to that concept of your worth and value. If you're saying, no, I'm a really good accountant. I know what I'm doing. I have great relationships with my clients. I had a good idea. I tried it and it failed. Why did it fail? What made it fail? Was it the timing? Was it the topic? Was it the platform? Was it that I've never done this before? Did I think it was a great idea and I forgot to run it past my audience first? Like, using the fail to ask some questions about it, there will always be a learning. And then you get to use that learning for the next thing you do. And, we're back to ultimately marketing is where you figure out what works and do more of it. And if it doesn't work, you stop that or change it. And the way to do that is to try stuff and go, yeah, that did not work, but this did. Or none of these things worked. And then ask curious questions about it. And curiosity is a massive part of creativity.
I'm liking the fact that you're bringing up testing, because one of the things that is part of failing is going out there and being vulnerable, trying something. There's a little bit of time investment. There's a little bit of money investment. But at the end of the day, you've got to find what's working for your marketing. And the way we teach it is what I focus on is what I call the rule of thumb. It's having 4 proven marketing methods while testing one, your fifth one. And the whole idea is, if I'm continually testing, I'll find something that ultimately will outperform something that may no longer be performing or isn't performing as well. And then I'm replacing with that test something that maybe wasn't as good. But the point is I don't know what that is until I have tested it. And so I just continually want to have 4 things that I'm working on that help me grow the business while testing the 5th. And then eventually I'll find something that's going to be that much more helpful. And as things change and evolve, hopefully I'll be on the cusp of something that's going to replace that thing that's no longer performing. So anyways, just something there. So I want to bring up then marketing in general and just simply say, what do you find that really does work, in the sense that as you work with your clients, is there some go-to things that as accounting professionals, as a profession, we should consider as part of our marketing method?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. And it's one that accountants are always asking. And partly it does come back to the, can you please save me some time? I don't want to have to spend, I accept that I'm going to have to do some failure, but how can I keep my failures small? And I think that's a valid question. We do want to keep the fails as small as possible. But of course, if you're willing to fail big, then you're willing to win big as well. But I would say a couple things spring to mind, and a lot of them have to do with these topics we were saying are the things that you would cover when you're in a meeting with a prospective client that usually goes well. So you would tell them, this is how we work. So some kind of a resource or an asset or marketing that relates to how we work. Could be a how we work page, could be a PDF guide, could be a slide deck with a video, could be a list of FAQs. There could be a whole pile of marketing assets around this, but the concept of something about how you work at your firm, how you approach things, and that can branch off into onboarding and those things as well. The second one would be pricing. So any kind of content that you can use to address the question of pricing. I know many accountants are going, I don't want to say pricing because it's different for everybody. Of course I know. If you came to me and said, hey, I want to work with PF on this thing, how much does it cost? I would ask you a lot of questions first so we could figure it out. But I could tell you right now the questions I would ask. And the same is true for the accountant, as you can say, these are the questions we're going to ask you to come up with your price. So I think things around how you work and around your value and around your pricing, those are kind of foundational things. If we're talking about the consistent content or even the marketing campaigns where you're doing something that's like a focused thing for a period of time, then I would circle back to what does your audience want and need? So we worked with a firm who specializes in breweries and foodies. What they need is probably not a series of webinars. That's probably not going to be what their audience relates to, but a podcast or attending these foodie festivals is going to be perfect because it's going to relate to them. And a firm that we work with who works with lawyers, they're going to be on LinkedIn because that's where they are. Although they might be surprised to be like, actually, a lot of them are on Instagram or TikTok. Like, you have to be open and not presume. So then we're back to failing small. So you can try little things and say, oh, we tried TikTok. Literally nobody followed us in our target market. Maybe we'll try something else. So I think circling back to what your audience relates to and what they care about, and then finding a platform or a format that's appealing to them. I think from that point, you've got enough knowledge in your head to go, like we've got a firm we're working with who works with companies who buy other companies. So he's got a podcast exclusively about that. He has plenty to say. All he needed help with was structuring it and setting it up and ticking it over. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm going to add to that. There are a few that we have as go-tos, ones that we've tested over the years, and we have good success and documentation to say that they are effective. I categorize them as being effective and inexpensive, honestly. We want to avoid some of those things that are a little bit more costly to begin with. But we find friends, family, neighbors are typically ones that are commonly found as resources to build your first initial client base. It's amazing what those people who know, like, and trust you already are willing to do as they refer and mention individuals that they know of that are business owners. The second is to actually leverage networking, the face-to-face interactions with your potential customers, knowing where they perhaps go and going there physically. I think there's a lot to be said about people staying too much in their homes or offices, trusting that remote working is going to be available and you're going to acquire a client that's just via Zoom. But there's a lot to be said about getting out, meeting with people, and still being physical in the sense that you're going out and shaking hands and so forth. But the third happens to be leveraging that of online funnels. Are you able to offer something where in exchange for contact information, you can give an ebook, a white paper, some report, some evaluation, something that's of value to the potential customer that they're willing to self-identify, provide that contact information. Now they're part of your CRM. And in that process, you're now able to then nurture them through, let's say, email campaigns and so forth. These are some of the tried and proven things that we've found that are successful and typically our go-to ones. Let me kind of switch gears and go to challenges that as accounting professionals we face, and how you address things such as mental health or physical health, and just putting someone's priority on themselves.
Yeah, that one's a really great one because especially with marketing, I find your physical and mental and emotional health is going to impact the success that you do or do not have. more so than almost any other area, because marketing involves vulnerability. You know, you're showing your whole self, or the best of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing some of the things where you're like, hey, I'm just being honest here. This is how we approach things. It's a bit different. It involves the vulnerability of trying stuff that may fail. And if you're not in a good place mentally or physically or emotionally or whatever, or financially even, it's going to be hard, because you're not going to feel motivated and excited about doing these things, because you're going to be worried, and you're going at it from a place of worry or fear. Now, there isn't a way, as we know, to magically make that go away and be like, oh, okay, I'll just not worry or fear then, you know. But this concept of recognizing the impact that has, even if all that means is saying, gosh, I am not in the healthiest place in this area or in lots of areas, so therefore my marketing is going to be a little bit harder right now. Just going to accept that and be honest about that, and be honest with my marketing person and say, listen, I'm struggling to come up with ideas. Can you help me? And the best thing that you can do when you're in that place is to connect with, well, I'm even going to back up to say, listen out for the people who want to help you. One of the phrases I struggle with in terms of mental health is when people say, oh, if you're struggling, reach out. Just reach out and ask for help. I'm like, when I'm in a depressed place, that is the last thing I want to do. I don't want to reach out to anyone. I want to just sit here and be miserable. I don't, but I think I do. So what helps me more is to say, just listen, just open your ear for a second, be like, is there anyone who made a little comment that means that there's somebody that I could just make a comment to, or even just be honest with and say, this really sucks right now. This is really hard. And that's it. And that's all you do. And then you see where it goes. And I've done that personally myself. I was trying to get back into walking every day. Walking outside in the woods clears my mind, but I wasn't doing it. I was just in a slump. And somebody had posted something on Instagram, and, you know, all very positive. And I said, well, I don't even want to do that. Like, that's not even where I'm at. And she's like, I totally get that. I hear you. That's how it is sometimes. And the next day I got up and went out for a walk. And I was like, huh, look at that. Like, the mere fact of recognizing I didn't want to do it stirred up a little ember, not a fire, just a little ember.
Yeah.
So that would be my encouragement, especially now. I talk to more people every day. I appreciate the honesty that people have even on social media now, to be like, this is really, really hard. I am really struggling with family or relationships or business or the world at large, whatever it is. And that holding that honesty within yourself and listening out for the people that you think might be open to just hearing that you just don't care right now could be something that helped give you a little ember. And that can impact your marketing and indeed your business, because marketing and business, if you have a marketing problem, you have a business problem, and vice versa.
Amen. No, I'm really grateful that you've brought this up, because one of the things that's very important is when I'm meeting with my clients is I go through an exercise with them that's the will of life and the will of business. Mm-hmm. And they have goals and aspirations as it relates to their company, but oftentimes it's at the sacrifice of themselves, things that they have as personal needs and wants. And one of the things that I first identify for them is when you come to a marketing situation or to the office with your staff and you bring in a negative energy, or you don't bring the energy that they need, you're no longer contagious. You're no longer someone that people are drawn to. And from a marketing perspective or employee perspective, they need that. That's what they're initially going to be drawn to, is that passion that you have for the business. And if that's starting to dwindle, if it's starting to wane, we have to recognize as individuals, we need to recharge ourselves, reinvest in ourselves, get that enthusiasm again, so that we can actually go out into the marketplace and be contagious, have people drawn to us. And that's one of the things that I think is powerful, because it does start with that ember, like you're pointing out. It's something that's small. This has been really good. I really appreciate this, because we've had a wonderful conversation. I'm going to wrap this up and just draw attention to a few things that I believe my listeners really should take advantage of. First of all, for everyone listening, there is in the episode description, first of all, a course that we're going to be making available. This is a course that I'd like you to consider that Karen has put together that actually helps from a marketing perspective. In addition to the course, there's also a book. It's the book that we mentioned earlier, The Accountant Marketer. I want you to take advantage of, in the description, getting either the course or the book. Now, with the course, you do get the copy of the book, so I want you to definitely consider getting both. Now, these are intended to assist you as you're working on your business and definitely meeting your marketing needs. So take a moment and consider that. In addition, in the episode description, you're going to find a book that's called Your Strategic Accountant. This is actually a book written to help you work on your business and, importantly, understand what those services are that your clients need from you as it relates to the accounting work that you do. Now, this is something that I would highly recommend that you also look at, simply because of the fact is it's designed to help you become, exactly as we discuss here, the premier accounting firm in your area. Likewise, you also have access to a course called the Turnkey Business Plan for Accounting Professionals. It is literally that, the turnkey business plan for you to work on your business so that you can, in fact, address those various things ranging from marketing and selling and such, so that you can acquire the clients you want and deserve. Now, with that being said, let me kind of summarize the conversation today. Clearly, we start with basically Karen's journey as it started, where she was just in college taking some accounting classes and started this idea of why not just go into accounting. Well, lo and behold, here she is now, an expert as it relates to accounting marketing, simply because she embraced the profession and started to pursue it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that leisure approach, if you will, just kind of tripping into the profession. And I think that's very appropriate. The other thing that I liked that was very helpful is we were talking about creativity and how it applies to marketing, that you need to be open to finding new things and creative things that are perhaps not of the rule of thumb that might be in business. You've got to kind of break the mold, if you will, and it goes to your unique selling proposition. What is it that you uniquely bring to the marketplace that draws individuals to want to work with you? And from a marketing point of view, it's just getting them to raise their hand and self-identify that they may be interested in your services at some point. Once you can have that selection take place, then you can begin that sales process. The other thing I liked is the analogy she gave of whiskey, the fact that this is a long process, something that you're going to be doing over time. Yes, there's a lot of things that we can do as it relates to marketing, but we've got to be willing to realize and accept that this isn't necessarily going to net us a business as a client next week or next month. It perhaps may be something that's going to afford us the opportunity to make an introduction, make a connection that over time will, in a year or more, perhaps turn into a client. The other thing that I think was helpful was the idea of failure, being willing to try, understanding that we need to put ourselves out there and do different things. Yes, today, the certain marketing method may work, but we've got to be prepared that one day may not work, and we've got to be out testing something differently. The last thing that I wanted to bring up is obviously this idea of mental health and so forth. I like that she said that it's hard and difficult to do the obvious, and sometimes we're told, just reach out. Well, sometimes it's not something comfortable that we're willing to do right then and there, but we've got to plant the seeds for those that we're interacting with and let that ember grow, whether it's in ourselves or others, so that they can actually find within themselves the opportunity to step out and recharge. And when we recharge, I think we're much more compelling and interesting to our potential customers and also to our staff. So lots of great little takeaways from today's conversation, and I appreciate that, Karen. Do you have a closing thought for us today?
Yes, I do. I'm going to go back to our whiskey and marketing analogy and add the concept of gin.
Okay.
Because when you're making whiskey, there's a point where you're making the liquid where it is essentially gin. It is a concentrated alcohol, and then other things are done to it, and then it is put into the cask. Because there's this long-term aspect to marketing, the whiskey element, you're thinking, okay, I got to do all these long-term things. The good news is, while you're waiting for the whiskey to become whiskey, you can figure out what your gin is, because that you can make fast and you can sell fast. And that's what a lot of whiskey distilleries do. While they're waiting for the whiskey to sit there and mature for 25 years, they're making gin and selling it straight away. So your gin marketing, do the whiskey marketing. Don't just do the gin on its own. Let the whiskey marketing happen. But while you're waiting for that to have that big impact, figure out your gin marketing, which is usually something that has to do with a concept or a question that you have answered more than 3 times. So when you have a client that asks you something and you think, I've answered this a billion times before, I know what it is. Ask yourself, why do I not have a blog post, a video, a web page, a post, something about that? That's your gin marketing. That's the fast track, because it solves something that everybody's already wondering.
Very good. Excellent. I love that analogy, both the whiskey and the gin. Very well done. Thank you. All right. Well, with that being said, obviously, to all of you listeners, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, I'd invite you to do so. Subscribe, set your notifications, get those notifications each and every week when we release a brand new episode, helping you work on your business to, in fact, have the premier accounting firm in your area. Now, in that mindset, I do want to invite you to actually check out the highlight reels that we have. We've actually put at universalaccounting.com a podcast section where we've collected playlists now of the various topics that we've covered. This will actually be playlists related to your current needs and situation, either marketing, selling, pricing. We have playlists that address things that are such as onboarding clients, retaining clients, staff training, tech stacks, mental health. So definitely go check out the playlist that we've compiled of the experts addressing these issues in a timely way for you to actually binge listen to them and hear what you're needing in your current business situation. In addition to that, I want to invite you to GrowCon. If you haven't already gotten your ticket, I want you to basically register for and join us at GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference where we have on the stage experts sharing with us insights and things that we need to be doing to work on our business as it relates to marketing and selling and getting the clients we deserve, offering quality accounting services, and also working efficiently and profitably. Come hear what the experts have to say as to what you can do to build the premier accounting firm in your area. In addition, you can interact with your peers, make great connections and friendships, and at the same time, collaborate. Find things that you can do to better service your clients with these experts in the room. Lastly, you get to meet the staff at Universal Accounting. It's those individuals that are committed to your success, allowing you to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal Accounting. So definitely register now, and I'll see you at GrowCon. As it relates to the podcast, we have obviously all these different topics that we bring up. If you'd like to discuss anything specific to your current needs, feel free to give us a phone call or visit us online. You can go to universalaccountingschool.com or call us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day and be safe out there. Karen, that was perfect.
Good. Enjoyed that.
That was a lot of fun. All right. So here's what I'm going to have you do. Go to the chat and I'm going to have you record that little promo piece.
Do you want like name and company or just first name or?
However you'd like to. Some do first last, some say their company. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I need to simplify what it is we discussed. You just did such a good summary. Okay. Just fire when ready?
Yep.
All right. This is Karen Reyburn from PF, and it was really great to record with Roger an episode of Building the Premier Accounting Firm. We talked about whiskey and gin and how that relates to marketing. We talked about creativity and failure and how embracing those and connecting those can help you with your marketing. And we talked about finding those little things that can help you do good marketing in the short term as well as the long term. I invite you to listen and join us.
Perfect. Thank you, Karen. All right. So let me give you